Okay, this is lesson 5.7, page 254 in your book. We're talking about transformations today. To transform is to change. So the word transform means to change, and transformations in geometry are changes to a shape. And specifically, there are three types of changes we are going to talk about: translation, rotation, and reflection. First one is translation. And a translation is a simple movement of a figure along a line without turning it. So the shape doesn't change or move in any way except that it moves along a linear line. So the example here that we have is let's do this in a different color. Let's do this red. Okay, this line here is the line that we're going to move on, and we go from the red and we just move it, and notice that it doesn't turn at all, it just moves along that line. And so that's what's called a translation, just a simple movement of the figure. Then there's a rotation. A rotation turns the figure around a central point. That central point called the center of rotation. So in this example here, we have our red triangle. We have a point called the center of rotation, and basically think about this as we just rotate this object a certain amount of degrees, in this case 90 degrees, based on this point of origin. So that would be a 90-degree angle that we rotated it. And then finally we have reflection. Reflection is the flipping of a figure across the line to create a mirror image. So some line is defined as being in relationship to your original triangle here, this red triangle, and we flip it. So a mirror image, so it kind of flips over in a mirror image, and you'll notice that the very first point here corresponded to that point, the second point was over here, and the top point there. And so the image flips around, and it's like looking at the image in a mirror. So here's 4 examples, and let's take a look to see what kind of translation they are. We know that we're going to do a translation, which is a movement, a rotation, which is a rotate the figure, and reflection, which is the mirror, and finally, maybe one of these is not any of those. So let's start with the very first one, A here. So we have this trapezoid figure, and we move it to this one. Now, I want to introduce the concept of point naming. Notice that when we move from point A to the new point A, we're going to call it A prime. So it has the same name, but that little tick mark right up here is called the prime of A. So A prime, it just relates the point back to where it started from. So it started at A, ended at A prime. And you can see that B ends at B prime, C ends at C prime, and D ends at D prime. So those are just the ways to talk about that little tick mark, that little apostrophe. Okay, so if you can see this, we've basically just moved this whole object straight across on a line, so this would be a translation. Okay, let's look at B now. On B, we have the E through J all the way around this shape, and you can see that E prime, F prime, we come around. So we've moved it over. It's moved straight across, but it's also shrunk. It's littler than it was. So if it's shrunk, then we've actually done something to the object. Okay, we haven't rotated it, It didn't spin around at all. We didn't reflect it. It's not a mirror image. But we did move it straight across, but we also made it smaller. So this ends up being none of these type of transformations that we're talking about. Later on, you'll learn that that's called a dilation, whenever you move something and make it littler. But for today's lesson, this is not one of the items we're talking about. And then on C, we look at this and we kind of can see that if we took this first red figure and kind of tilted it over on P, rotated it just on the P axis there, on the point P, and then it set it down on its side, then that would be the shape we have in blue. You can see that K kind of falls down and ends up on the ground. L kind of rotates with it. Everything ends up rotating basically 90 degrees that way. And so this ends up being a rotation. And finally, we have D. On D, our original trapezoidal or quadrilateral figure here looks to me like if you drew a line right in the middle, that we then do a flip mirror image over here, and since we have the mirror image, this is a reflection. All right, let's look at example 2, straight from the book again. On this one, it says, hey, I'm going to give you this figure ABC, and I want you to translate it, which means move it, and don't spin it at all, just move it, along the line BC, so that the new B prime is at the same place that C is right now. So let's see if we can do that with the drawing tool here. We grab the object. We're going to paste it now. And now we have a new object. And there we go. And I want to move it so it's right there. And then I'm going to change its color. All right, so now you can see that A prime has just moved straight across, and B prime is right where C was, so that's both point C and point B prime, and then C prime moved everything. So everything just moved straight along the line BC, and we realigned the B prime with the point C. Let's take a look at B. This time we want to reflect across the line AB. Here's the line AB. So we basically want to reflect that across that. So let's get rid of that. Let's see if we can do that with a drawing tool. We grab the triangle, and we know we're going to reflect it, so we need to copy it. So now let's come over here, and it jumped up there for a reason, I don't know. All right. Let's get back to where we were. I'm not sure why my screen changed, but there it is. So now we're going to paste that object, and we're going to have to rotate it twice to get the reflection we want. And there, now you can see that we can line straight up with those right along line AB. And I'm going to change it just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to change the color. And now we can see that A prime is right where B is, and B prime is right where, A prime is right where A was. Let's write that a little better. And there we go. All right, A prime. Let's write A prime on there a little better. A prime, then B prime, and C prime. So that's a reflection directly across the AB line. And finally, on C here, says do a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation around point C. Well, here is our point C, right there, okay? And 90 degrees counterclockwise would be like this. Counterclockwise is that way, so we need to go 90 degrees that way. So once again, let's grab this object. Let's see if we can grab this guy and copy. Then we're going to have to paste, and hopefully this doesn't move us. There we go. Paste. Now we need to rotate it. Well, we have a rotating tool here, so we're going to go counterclockwise, which is left, and then we move it so that point C lines up. And let's change it all to the ending color. And I put the black, undo that. Lasso here, okay. Then hit the black point C. I don't know why we jumped again. There we are, we're back to where we were. And we want to grab this guy. So we rotated around point C. So C prime is the same as C. B came all the way around here. And there's B prime. And A prime is right here. So that is a rotated counterclockwise depiction of the original ABC triangle, but it's now rotated. So you can see how these kind of all line up. Now let's take the last part of the lesson is saying let's do this on a coordinate plane. So it gives us the following point, and it asks us to do all the things we do into the following point. So the first time it says, let's see if we can translate 3 down. And here's our point. A is at 2, 1. B is at 3, 3. And C is at 1, 2. So translating 3 down, we'll come down here, 1, 2, 3. So that is going to be C prime. Let's do A, 1, 2, 3. That will be A prime, and B, 1, 2, 3. That will be B prime. And let's erase those little dots in between. And now let's connect. Let's connect it with a skinnier line. And we have now successfully just translated it down 3 units. Just took every vertex, every point, moved it down, and then redrew the triangle. All right, let's take the second example here that says reflect the same triangle. So we're starting in the same spot across the y-axis. Well, this is the y-axis. Okay, so we're looking to reflect across that. So let's grab our color. We know that for point C here, we come 1 to get to the line that we're reflecting across. So we need to go 1 more, and that will be C prime. Then B goes 1, 2, 3. Then let's go 1, 2, 3 more, and that will be B prime. And A prime right here, 1, 2 to get to the line of reflection. So 1, 2 more to get to the other side, and that'll be A prime. And we draw the triangle again. Okay, and that ends up being our reflection across the x-axis. If they had asked us to reflect across that was the y-axis. If they had asked us to reflect across the x-axis, I'll just put that x and y there. Okay, then we'd have done the same thing, but we'd have gone down up to the x-axis. So A would have been 1 down, 1 more. I'll call this A double prime. B would have been 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There would have been B. I'll call that B double prime. And C would have been 1, 2 down. So 1, 2 more. past the line of reflection, and C double prime, and there would have been the drawing for an x-axis reflection. Now let's take a look at a rotation. We want to rotate 180 degrees, okay, around the point 0, 0. So where is the point 0, 0? That's the origin. It's right there in the middle. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use like a green color here, and I'm going to look at point A. I come out over 2 and up 1. So one of the tricks for rotating here is that I know that I can rotate 90 degrees twice to get to 180 degrees. So since my original is over 2 and up 1, I can rotate a 90 degree, and I come across, I go down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1, and that would be my first of 2 rotations. Then I rotate another 90 degrees and go over 2 and down 1, and here is my new point A, right there. Okay, then I can do the same thing. I'll get rid of those. I'll do the same thing with point B. Over 3, up 3, down 3, over 3 is my first 90 degree rotation. My second rotation will be over 3, down 3. There's the second 90 degree rotation. So point B is going to be right here. Now I erase those lines and do the last one. We'll do point C, over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, over 1, in this case down 2, and my point would be right here. Now I can erase the green lines, connect my dots, label them correctly. Let's see, I forgot how to label one. This is A prime, this will be B prime, and this will be C prime. So that is a way to rotate around a point. And remember, our point here was 0, 0. And that's really the lesson, how to do those 3 things.